Hello everyone and welcome. So this is a behind the shot webinar series that we just started coming out with. And what it is if you remember a few weeks ago, I traveled to Philadelphia, New Jersey, back to New York City, back to New Jersey, and then I finally came home. Along the way, I taught workshops, I gave presentations, and I also did a couple chats for the colleges that were in New York City, and it's a great experience, but not all of you could be there at once. So I'm very happy. Our good friends at T&F Camera, they hosted me for a lighting workshop. And what I want to do is I'll review what we did during that workshop. And we do have a group of people that are already here on Zoom. In fact, you know what? I will bring you on. If I just want to wave for a moment. 1 second. I'll get them to wave. All right, everyone, start waving. Say hi. Let's make sure you guys behave. So, whenever we do live presentations, it does get a little scary. But anyways, I trust them. So, feel free to ask questions. So, I'm going to go through a bunch of things with you. And it's going to be a recap of what we did. But my goal is this. By the time you're done, you should be able to do these exercises on your, I know Holly bought, some lighting gear, and the first thing she said was, I kind of forgot what we did at that workshop. Nope, my goal is for you to know it inside and out so you could practice it, and then you'll start to get better and better with it. All right, so let me just jump right in for a moment on this. What I do want to do, let me get to the top. These are the 5 elements that nobody really talks about with exposure, and that's what I want to talk to you about. Now, I adopted this approach from my good friend Joe Edelman, and I call it the Edelman approach to exposure. I added light to subject distance and the power of the light. So let me show you what it is. And once you master this, lighting is going to be a breeze. So the first one is shutter. In the old days, we would start with ISO. Well, Edelman's approach is slightly different. Start with shutter. Choose your shutter for purpose. What's the purpose of choosing that shutter? If you're photographing fast-moving sports, you want a high shutter speed. If you're photographing a beautiful waterfall or a nice landscape of water coming in and out, and you want to freeze that, or you want that motion not to be frozen, you want it to flow and make it look soft and silky, you drag the shutter. So choose your shutter for purpose, your aperture for feeling. What's the feeling you want to portray? A 2.8 in a portrait gives that beautiful bokeh background. But if I have a whole family, I may want to bump it up to f8 or f11. Landscapes, very similar. Macro photography especially. Choose your aperture. What feeling do you want this image to give others? Here's the cool part, ISO. That just controls your brightness. So think of ISO now, and don't worry about noise in your images. The modern cameras nowadays, I've been shooting over 12,000 ISO without an issue. So, and of course, we use Luminar Neo for some noise cancellation, but ISO, control your brightness. You're taking a shot, and all of a sudden, it's just way too dark. Bump up the ISO. If it's too bright, lower the ISO. Now the 2 missing variables that people usually don't talk about. Light to subject distance, and this is going to change the softness and the character of the light. I'm photographing a beautiful, my sister, I'm photographing my beautiful sister. I want to bring that light source really in and just get that soft glow on her. If I'm photographing Bart, for example, our good friend Bart from T&F, he's a rugged man. He's a man's man. I may shoot that light source a little bit further away because I want harsh light on him. I want that light to add to his character. And then last, the power of the light. That sets the intensity and the presence. So this right here, the power of that light, what that's going to do for us is that controls the other elements of exposure. So if, let's say, I brought my ISO down very, very, very low, but Now I have a choice. I can pick one of the others to balance it so I have a proper exposure. So what I'm getting at is this. What we need to do is we lock 5, or out of the 5 elements, we lock 4 of the 5. If you're a landscape photographer, light to subject distance and the power of the light, that's already locked in. You unless you choose to stay in that location and say, look, I'm going to stay here for a while until the light goes down. There's your light to subject distance. There's the power of your light. I'm going to wait for that cloud to come across the sun as a diffuser. Most people don't think that way. So those 2 elements are locked into place. The other 3, if you pick, let's say, I'll use fast action sports. I want 2.8. I need my shutter to be very fast. So I want my shutter speed maybe 1/116th of a 1600th of a second for my shutter, maybe even 2000th of a second. Well, what does that leave? ISO. So I usually put in auto ISO and adjust from there. With portrait photography, you have complete control. So we start with the shutter and we say, okay, and in fact, let's see if I have it right here just to show you. Yep, I do. Perfect. Here we are when we were setting up the lights. All right. Now, the first thing we have to remember is this. The ambient light in the room, you want to cancel all of that out. In the old days, we would shut off all the lights and just have modeling lamps on the subject because we didn't want any contamination. Well, if I'm shooting at 200th of a second, and we did this while we were there in New Jersey at T&F Camera, that 200th of a second, and let's say an f4, well, let's see what this is. So this right here was shot at 100 ISO, aperture 6.3, and high speed sync at 320th of a second, which means, look at this, it's pitch black. I could say this is my dark stage when I went through. That's what we want. Now let's see something here. Just out of curiosity. Edit. And what would happen, and let me get right to it, is, let me get out of the way for you. You know what, let's bump the exposure up to see if something, yeah, look at that. Do you see what we just did? So, in order for me to even get an inkling of an exposure, that's 5 stops. I would have to adjust with my ISO, which we did here, the ISO up by almost 5 stops, because that's what we saw. What you're seeing is this. What we saw, well, much lit more, we saw Bart already there. So the first shot you should take before you set all the lights up, take a shot, and then you could see, the ambient light isn't affecting this scene. Now we have to bring in light. Now we need the light source. Let me get Bart out of there. So what we did was simple. For this lighting setup, and I'll show you the different ones we have coming up through, this was a 2-light setup. Now, you would think that these side lights, people usually call them fill lights. Those aren't fill lights. That's our main light source. That's our key light. Because look what it's doing to Bart. It's shaping Bart the way we want it. So notice we just introduced 2 lights. And that's the outcome. In fact, here it is. There's the outcome. Now, that right there is just the fill light. Notice I said fill. The fill light brought in his face, but notice we don't see any of the stuff around the side. So now when we put it all together, look at that. So did you see what just happened? So don't be in such a rush, because again, this is what I've always did. You set up all the lights, you take a picture, it doesn't look good. You change shutter speed, your ISO, you change so many different things, you take a picture, still doesn't look good. You got to slow down a bit. Now, let's see if I have it right here for you. Yes, I do. Good. Behind the scenes. So here are the behind the scenes. the first thing we do is once we set everything up, and I hope I have the video for you. And, yep, here it comes. Oh, perfect, right here. I hope that's the video. All right, so here we go. So right here, yeah, so so yeah, it's lagging a little bit. Here we go. So I set up the lights, the 3 lights that we wanted, took the first shot, got my meter reading. Then I did the meter reading behind him. Then I did the same thing for the other side. Let's get to it. EJ did a pretty good job on this. And then the meter reading on the other light. So now that I have that set, I just dial that into the camera. Light to subject distance, those lights we don't want to keep moving. We set it, and those G-Kodos, normally I start with a 1/4 power. They were so freaking strong. I think we shot it at 1/32 power. So what that's telling me is I can go the entire day photographing with the power, with the battery packs. That was phenomenal. That was absolutely phenomenal. So I lowered the power. Then did the same thing with the key light. Let's see if I have, I hope we zoomed out. I'm pretty sure we did. Yeah, we did. Perfect. So this was the 3 light setup. All right. The one that we just saw there. And look at the light to subject distance. Look how high that light is. I don't want to have to keep having an assistant. Imagine Holly is my assistant. Hey, Holly, climb up there, change the power of the light, or bring it down, bring it up. You're going to get exhausted, and it's not always going to be consistent. Leave it. We set the power, it's set, boom. The only time I moved that light was the light to subject distance. If I'm taking shots, I'm like, ooh, you know what? That light source is in my frame. Push it back a little bit. Now I have to increase the power of that light because I moved it away from the subject. So, but once we had that set, those 2 elements of the 5 that we talked about, those 2 elements of those 5 are set. Light to subject distance, power of the light, done. So we have that set. Now, for this shot, I chose my shutter to block everything out. So that's why we did 320th of a second. So now that I have that set, the next step was my aperture. And in this case, I wanted the texture of the camera. I wanted the texture of Bart's hair, his glasses. So yeah, I did bump it up to, I think it was 6.3. And by the way, if you notice, this was shot with my phone. Look, for a proper exposure, it would have been 1/60th of a second, 2.8 with ISO of 500. So that's what the phone did. So here's what's really cool. If you ever get confused, put the camera in auto mode, take a picture, let the camera tell you what it thinks it should be. Then dial it in manually. For the lights, obviously, the lights weren't being triggered. So the camera, I mean, when you put it in auto mode, it can't figure that out. But it gives you what the base exposure is. So now that we have that set, and now I no longer have to think technical. I used the light meter, click, click, checked it out. It came back and said, hey, based on what you did with the power of the light, based on what you did with the light to subject distance, you chose the shutter and you chose the ISO. The light meter comes back and says, based on all of that information, I'm going to give you, let's see, what did it come up with? I believe, let me get down. Let's get to Bart. Here we go. So it came back and said, based on this, oh, look at it. Yep. So based on that, it came back and gave me a 6.3. So it told me my f-stop is 6.3. Well, What if you wanted to be real picky? Well, I want that f-stop to be 5.6. 5.6 to 6.3, it's not that big of a difference. 2.8 would be. Well, then on that light meter, you just switch it down and say, all right, if it's 2.8, what changes? And they'll actually tell you, well, that means your shutter speed has to increase, or it may say your ISO may have to decrease. So it helped. That's the purpose of that light meter. All right? So first thing, we set up all the lights, get everything set, snap the shot, and it should be black. If you did it right, no lights are on, you took the shot, it's pitch black, perfect, we're ready to go. Then you use that light meter. And if you don't have a light meter, yes, this is where you have to guess. But you need your computer with you or something to help you. Don't rely on that little camera in the back. That little LCD screen is not going to help you. So in that case, you'd have to guess and say, okay, well, I'm going to make the back a little bit stronger than the front. So I'm going to give that a little more power than this. You take a guesstimate, take the shot, check it out. You may, like I said, if you have your computer with you, you can check in your computer, but that light meter, when it comes to portrait stuff, it's going to save your butt all the time. And after a while, like Bart, you don't need it. It's just there for validation. It's there for you to go, I got everything all set. Let me just double check it. Click. Whew, yep, I got it. All right. Bart, it's much like not forgetting that you don't have a memory card in your camera. So, sorry, Bart, I had to bring that up. Bart had a little incident where the memory card, he did the same thing I did. The only difference is Bart did it without anyone noticing. Mine was during the actual workshop. And to fix that problem, I set my camera to where it no longer lets me take the picture without a memory card in it. So Bart and I were cracking up. I'm like, oh, good, Bart. I'm glad to hear that a pro like you did the same thing I did. But it's those little things that you learn from, and trust us, it's going to rarely, really happen again. All right? So now, we got all that set. Now we jump into this. A gray card. What's really cool is Mike, which all of you know from T&F, he bundled the reflector with the light kits. The reflector has a gray card. That's the reflector. So that's the outside case. So when you're shooting, that's what you're going to use. And then what you would do is this. You'd come into Luminar Neo, or you could do it in camera, which I would recommend. In your camera, set it to the white balance. Just remember you have a custom white balance. So when you go outside to do another shoot, put it back to auto. All right? But make sure you remember that. So here, under develop, what I'll do is I'll come down to color. Now watch, look right here. Look at the tint. Look at the color temperature. I'm going to come over here. How do I know it's neutral gray? 63, 62, 70. That's pretty close. Look at this. 50, 52, 41. Yeah, that's close, but not as. So I'm going to go around and let's say, right about there. Look at that. That's going to give me a neutral gray. Look what you saw. Oh, did you see that? Before, after, look at Bart's face. Before, after. How cool is that? All right. Now, let's reset it. If you don't have a gray card, then the second best option would be to do this. Select the white of the eye, because here it is, 111, 102, 97. Let me move it down a little bit. Oh, perfect, right there. Do you see what I just did? Boom. And there's the change. Before, after. Is it as accurate? No, but it's better than nothing. And then you could tweak it just right about there. Then you could tweak it. But I'm telling you, having the gray card like this, click, look at that. That gives you one of the most accurate readings, and it's even better when you do it in camera, because then you could skip this step. So what I would do is, now that I know that that's my white balance, any of the editing that I do from this point on, so in fact I'm going to copy it, adjustment, copy. So now when I'm doing, let's say, and Bart, thank you for letting me use your images here. Adjustment and paste. Now it's set. Ready? So before, after, look at that. Now I have my white balance set. This is where I would start my editing, copy this, and then paste it on all the other images. Now they have proper white balance, and they have the proper look that I'm going for. If at this point, I mean, I could, in theory, say, okay, well, just select all these images, right-click, paste, now they all have the same white balance. Well, the problem is, I really like this recent edit. I like knowing, well, what did I edit, what didn't I edit? So if I apply that to all the images, now I don't know which ones I gave that special treatment to. So there's other ways we're going to fix that in a moment, but I like to keep that off to the side. All right? So now that we have that set, we got the shots, it came in, now we're going to bring it into Luminar Neo, and we'll start doing some creative stuff. But before I do, let me show you a couple things behind the scenes. All right, let me get out of the way for you. That was a 3-light setup. And then this was a 1-light setup. Yep, so here's a 1-light setup. Now, before I go any further, I'm also going to have you guys, the people that are here, ask any questions up to this point, and I'll answer those. But let me just show you this right here first. So we have 1 light. Notice Bart is wearing glasses. Notice there's no reflections in those glasses. Bart was smart enough, because he works with light, he knows how to position his head so he's not going to get glare. In fact, I had to beg him, let's see if I have it. I begged him on one of them to, I don't think I have it here. I have it on, oh, that's behind the scenes, that's why. I have another one where I asked him if he could do me a favor and please put the angle of your of where you're looking, so it caused a glare in his glasses. Let's see if I have it. Yeah, here we go. Bart, he took them off, had them on, and you know what? Maybe no, I know I have it. I have it somewhere. But anyways, so I did have Bart show how to take the picture. There we go, right here. Look what he did. Look how that glares in the glasses. Well, what's the difference? Well, then look what he did here in the second one. Just that slight change. Do you see that slight change from this here, from this to here, got rid of that reflection. So the angle of reflection of the light source, the angle of the light, is going to help with the reflection in the glasses, and there we have it. All right? So, 1 light setup. That was the first one we just did here. Again, here's the light source coming in. No light. The only problem with the 1 light like this, you're not having a hair light. So that's why we introduced a reflector. And we brought a reflector in. Let's see, right here. So there's the 1 light source. And notice we put the diffuser, a softbox on it to give us that soft glow. And then we have a reflector here that's going to bounce the light back. Without that reflector, you saw it, he's going to look like a floating head. All right? So that's why it's important. So up to this point, I know I covered quite a bit, and we'll continue. I should have paused. We did talk about these 5 elements. Your choosing shutter first, aperture, then we talked about ISO, light to subject distance, power of the light. So those are the 5 that we discussed first. Then I showed you, we took a shot, made sure that that image was black. Then we introduced the color, introduced the light sources. Do I have any questions from the group so far up to this point? Because remember, you guys are actually, a lot of pressure on you. You guys are actually asking the questions for the people that are watching this on YouTube. So up to this point, do you have any questions? Feel free. Go ahead, Nick.
Yeah, at the you were showing us all these different reflectors and what have you. Were the store lights on at full light the entire time?
Yes. So the ambient light in the room. So in the old days, my Hensels were so powerful that the person's eyes, they were constricted. They looked beautiful. Oh, beautiful, beautiful. You can see the iris. It was great. When we switched to battery power, now the eyes themselves are, I always do this, dilated. So now you have this big, huge purple pupils, and they miss out on the iris. So we used to shine flashlights into people's eyes. Well, what I like to do sometimes is light the living daylights on. So fill the room as much light as possible, then use the shutter to cancel it all out. Did that help you?
Yes, thank you. And second question, I'm not a portrait photographer, as you know, but when you looked and noticed the reflections in his glasses, is that something that you, as the photographer, should look for before you ever take the shot and then adjust the model's head one way or the other?
So Bart, I took the shot and I go, oh, wow, look at that. Boom. No reflection. And I started laughing and Bart goes, oh, like it's not my first rodeo. And I started, because he's the one who did it. If he were an average person that most of us deal with, you would have a reflection the very first shot you did. You would see the reflection. Then you'd say to them, hey, no, look at the reflection. So it's doing this because you're looking in this direction here. Tilt your head a little bit and down. Now it's not going to hit. So an easy way to do it is find somebody that you trust and they're not going to get bored, and just grab a bare bulb and just practice with it, and so you'd actually see it in your eyes. If you can't find somebody like that, they used to grab an egg, but you could grab something reflective, and then a wine bottle, and then you could actually see where that reflection's coming in, and then you just reposition the light until it's no longer there, or reposition the bottle to where it's no longer there. But that's a great practice. All right?
All right, thank you.
You got it. Holly, do you want to announce the next person?
Sure, Jim Karofsky.
Hi there.
Hey, Jim, welcome.
Hey, I got a question for you. Were you using a modeling light on that flash or not?
No, you could, but we had enough ambient light in the room that we didn't do that. And the reason is when you're dealing with battery strobes, you put that modeling lamp on, it's going to drain the battery. So the modeling lamp is good, just like if you want to, like if you dim the house lights and you just move the modeling lamp, oh, okay, there it is, I got it now. After a while, you're going to know. You're going to just look at the light, you're going to look at the softbox and go, yeah, that's not positioned right. You'll move it, and you'll in your mind, you'll actually see the modeling light. But until then, use it. Use the modeling light, but just remember, turn it off quick, because otherwise your batteries will go dead.
My question, the second part of that was, if the modeling light was on, would you have seen the reflection in the glasses earlier? And then you would have known that the person...
Light, yes. If it's very powerful, like right now, you, for example. So if you look straight at us, now just tilt your head up just a little bit. Boom, look at that. Right? you see what just happened? But now, just if you don't mind, here, pretend this is you. Ready? Follow my fingers. Turn your head this way. Good. Turn this way. That's it. Now watch this. Up. Over. Here comes the light. None the other way. Ready? There it is. Look at that. See? So I know that that's wrong. So I would do this. I'd bring you down a little bit. And then here's your head. I would turn it just a touch. There you go. And now, but do you see how we were able to do that? Because you're in a room. I'm sure it's not like daylight in that room. Your modeling lamp is what's helping you. Your video light is helping you. All right?
Right. Okay,
it's a fun exercise. And by the way, just so you guys know, I did talk with our good buddy Mike. So Mike from T&F. Oops, sorry. Let me get that back up. There it is. So these are the 3 lighting kits that we came up with. And yes, from a childhood, when I was a child, and let's just say you got a Christmas gift, no batteries included, and all the stores are closed, you have a phobia after a while. So with this lighting kit that we came up with, I said, Mike, let's make sure we do it to where they don't need to go out. They get all excited. They get everything set. Oh, I don't have light stands. Oh, shoot, I don't have a reflector. So the way we built it was the one light starts out with just that, one light, but with a reflector. So now in essence, it's 2 lights. It came with a light stand. Well, if you have a light stand, what else do you need? You need sandbags to make sure that nobody gets hurt if that light tumbles over. Then he also added the connectors for all of it. Oh, the triggers for the lights. So all of it's included. And they included a free copy of Luminar Neo. So think about that. So, what was it? It was, let me get back to it. There it is. Yeah, I can't see it. Let me pull this up real quick. Oh, there it is. It's, $494, and that includes Luminar Neo. All of them do. All right, and then the second one is going to include 2 lights. Then the third one includes the third light. But notice the base, the very first one is the base. So from that base is where, oh, there we go. Let me get you guys out of there. Got it. There we go. That first one is the base. You have everything you need. So if you want to get into portrait lighting for under $500, you could do, for that lighting kit, it's perfect for product photography or still life. My goddaughter does a lot of jewelry she makes for Etsy. So with that, she would use that, put it up against a white backdrop, and then boom, she has this incredible lighting kit to do her jewelry. It's good if you want to do simple portraits. The 2 light setup is even better. And then the third one, of course, is you're covered. Unless you're Rick Freeman and you put like 15 lights or 30 lights all over the studio, that you have to decide, what do you want to work with? All right. So our friends at T&F, like I said, thankfully, Mike came up with a way to where it's affordable, and at the same time that it's not bankrupting the camera store. All right. So other questions up to this point?
There's no one else has their hand raised except for you. Do you have a question?
My hand raised?
Yeah.
Is it really?
But no, yes. You read Kevin's mind as he made a comment, but the comment was related to changing the white balance, and you did it exactly as he was typing it. So you're also a mind reader.
Good. I learned the in-camera, because in fact, all the cameras nowadays has the white balance set in the camera where you could set a custom white balance. I learned that the hard way. We photographed, I think it was like 170 athletes, and I had to go through and set the white balance for each of them, and let's just say that was not fun. All right? So that's another way of doing it, putting it into the camera. All right? Well, let me go on to the next one. So let me get back to my Neo. All right? So there we are with the 1 light, and then we said the 2 light setup, which was right here. And then, of course, the 3-light setup. So that's how we would use, and then there's the background, of course. And by the way, the reason, let's see if I put that in there. Yeah, the reason why we have grids, and the grids are also included in all of that, but the reason why the grids are so important here is the light's not going to spill onto the background. So, people would say, well, how far do you want that person from the background? You know what? I get 6.7 inches or 6.7 feet. That's going to be different. You have to decide how much room you have, and then sometimes you have to put that grid very, very, very close to the background of the subject. You want it to be controlled, and you want that grid to hit exactly where you're going. So that's why the grids are all included, along with that big softbox that's called a beauty dish. The grid is on that too. All right. So there's the 3-light setup all the way through. And now we get to have fun. Let's see. And all right. So there's the team. Let me get to, there's Brendan. Oh, here we go. The Brock. I love photographing him. So let's use Brock here. All right. We did do something a little bit different, which I'm not a huge fan of. Look at the reflection under the eye. We did put one of those highlighters underneath, and it's great to bounce light underneath the chin and under the eyes in here, but you have to be careful that it doesn't bop into the iris, and well, it did. So technically, if you get a purist like a Rick Farrow, they're going to go, oh, you only have one light source. How many suns are there? There's one sun. Well, I disagree with learn the rules like a pro so you can break them as an artist. I like having a bottom light source every so often but Luminar Neo does that for me. So what I'm going to do is this. I'm not going to reproduce. And by the way, if you notice, some of those look black and white. I set my camera for black and white because I knew that was what I wanted to end. In my mind, I wanted to photograph this shot. I want to convert it to black and white. So in camera, I set the balance to black and white. Now, I also shot it JPEG and I shot it in RAW. JPEG will honor the black and white that you set in the camera. The RAW will strip it. So why do you do it? Well, in fact, I think it was with Jim and a few others, when we photographed an ugly waterfall, I called it. And I just looked at it and thought, there's nothing here. I'm not getting it. You know what? Let me see what it would look like in black and white. Put the camera in black and white, took the shots and thought, ooh, this looks good. I like it in black and white. Now I have a reference in what I'm shooting. But at the same time, I have a fallback. Just in case I didn't want black and white, I have the RAW and the JPEG. So with Brock here, I called him the Brock. So here he is. Now, let's do a quick edit. And I am going to come into develop. Back to his eyes. First thing I do want to start with is let's just adjust the white balance. Right about there is good. There it is. Look at that. Before, after, and you know what? I want to make it a little more. Right about there. All right. Now I could also come in here and say, all right, well, that's what the camera would have done. I would rather use Luminar's black and white tool because I have more control. So I'm going to bypass that. Look what it does with portrait. I'm noticing portrait in standard. Standard gives me more contrast, and vivid for portraits, forget that. So you decide, typically just the standard is fine. And then I can build from there. All right, highlights, I'm going to bring it down just a little bit. Let's bump up the shadows just a touch. Not too much. And then, of course, the black point. There's a black tone. Now I'm just building contrast and pop a little spark contrast. All right. Before, after, no hues change, and that's good. that means I did it right in camera. So if you sit there and go, oh man, I don't know where to edit, it already looks good, pat yourself on the back, because that's your goal. I did a photo shoot of my sister and her boyfriend, Joe, MJ we call him. We did the shoot outdoors in the worst lighting condition you can imagine in Florida, purposely to show people how to photograph in bad light. She looked and said, you have to edit these? These look great. Thank you. But yes, I'm going to edit certain things with it. But that was the greatest compliment my sister could have given me is, wow, that looks great. So that's our mission. Now, I have him. So we have that set. Couple things. I am going to crop it. And let's say his significant other says, hey, Vanelli, I want this as an 8x10. So it's a 4:5 ratio. And she wants an 8x10 because really 8x10, 4:5 can go to 8x10, but she really wants a 16:20. So the 4:5 ratio is a perfect one for that. Well, I love the Dutch tilt. Look how that changes. I like it right about here. And I cut heads off, but for now, let's say his significant other is telling me I want his head all the way in the shot. There it is. Look at what that Dutch tilt did. All right. Here's the image here. Now, to me, this looks more artistic. All right. So now, copyright infringement. Let's get rid of that Nike symbol. And yes, if this were for a major shoot, I wouldn't let him wear Nike. All right, let's just get rid of that quick. And then once it's gone, then we'll address some of the other. There we go, look at that. Now we have it set. I like where it's heading. Well, let's come down here, black and white, convert, and look at that already. Already it's looking good, but now I have control over the different colors in the scene. So complexion usually has red and yellow in it. Good, notice greens aren't doing anything. Let's see, cyan. Nope, same thing. Blues, probably a shirt. Yep, look at that. So I am going to bring that way down because I want that darker. And what about magenta? Nope. All right, so that's pretty decent. Before, after, all right. And again, his significant other says, yeah, I want more. Okay, well, let's come down here to the new, where's the portrait here? So here are some of the new portrait tools, all right? With Face AI, I could, if I made this dark, and I'll show you that with one of Bart's images, I can increase the light on the face slightly. Look at that. I'm not going to slim his face because I like how it looks. I mean, to me, again, if his mother can't recognize him, you went way too far. I'm sorry, nope, that's not him. I like it better like this. His eyes. Now, here's where the order of operation matters, okay? If I wanted to change the colors of his eyes, I would do that before I convert it to black and white. Because if I don't, let's just say for whatever reason, we'll go blue. Look at that. That's just creepy. Even if that's creepy. What I would do, let's say his eyes, he has a beautiful brown. So what we're going to do is this. We'll come back to edit, black and white. Remember these settings? Let's just remove it. Boom. Now go back. And now look at that. Look what we just did. We just gave his eyes a little more soul. And then, like I said, I like putting a little flare into the bottom. Eye whitening, you know what? Please, God, please, 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 people, don't do this. That just looks... Just because we can doesn't mean we should. All right? I have a lot of pro friends that do this. It drives me insane. That just looks creepy. You know, maybe not even a little. I like it like that. The eye enhancer. Look at this. If I just want to bring more enhancement to the eye, red eye removal, you should never have to use that. That's an old fashioned where you would put the flash on the actual camera and shoot it straight into the person's eyes. Then you'll get red eye. Thankfully, we don't have to deal with that anymore. But here's what's really cool. The dark circle remover. Now, I don't want to do it to him because that just looks totally fake. But how cool is that? I can bring that back in just a little bit, right about there. His eyebrows already look good. His mouth, I don't need to do anything with his mouth or his teeth. So let's just double check. Here's before. Here's after. Once again, I like how that's all looking. And again, order of operation. If I'm going to change the color of the eyes, I do all that stuff first. Then we'll go back and convert to black and white. Skin, again, he's another one. He's a man's man. I don't want to sit there and take his skin and smooth it to the point to where I don't like it. All right. So instead, I may just do a little bit. If he was a teenager and had a lot of blemishes, then we could use blemish removal. What's new now is this body smoothing. So if this were, let's say he's in a tank top. Well, I want whatever his face is, I want to match his arms. That's when I would do body smoothing. The skin or the shine removal. Look at this. Ready? Look at that. So the way to fix shine removal in camera is by bringing that light source a little bit closer with a diffuser on it. That big softbox, that would spread the light across. And that's all we're doing here. That shine removal is what you're really doing is you're spreading the light a little bit further so it's not as harsh and you're not getting specular highlights. So let's see the difference. Before, after. One more. Here it is. So that's just a minor change. Look at that. I like it. Right click, virtual copy. So what if his significant other says, hey, Vanelli, I want the black and white version, but I also want the color version. Create a virtual copy. Now you can experiment all day long on that virtual copy, and it's not going to affect it. All right? So now I'm going to come back, and this is where we'll go back to the black and white. I'm going to just speed it up a little bit. Pop that in just a little bit. And the yellow, tone it down. Good. And then we said the blue. There, right about there. All right. Look at that. I like it. And chances are I'd probably want to put a vignette on it. Because I do want to dial in the borders. And then maybe just a little bit center. Notice I always go to extremes first. And the reason why I do extremes is so I can see exactly what it's doing. All right. Now, what else do we want to do this? Well, we could, and I know it's funny to say this, black and white, we could add a little grain effect. Because isn't that what black and white, that's way too much. But isn't that what the black and white traditional toning did? So 31 is way too much. I may just put just a little bit, nothing huge. The goal is I don't want it to be noticeable, but I want it to know that it does something. How I look at it is the graphic artists, they usually put a 1 pixel stroke around the words, and then it just jumps off at the page. We're doing the same thing with that green. So look at it, before, after, and look how those eyes are jumping. All because we added color to it, then we went back and got rid of the color with black and white. So here's that green again. I jumped up to 22. Yeah, it's too much. Yeah, I kind of like 7. 10. Yeah, 10's good too. All right? And I do want to finish it off with one more thing, which I should have done earlier. Structure AI is magnificent for adding that beautiful sharpening type look to an image, it's smart enough not to mess with the skin. However, in this case, I do want it to come in. So instead of using Structure AI, I'm going to go back to the traditional details. I'm going to go to an extreme so you can see it. So that's an extreme. Now, that's way too much for the grit look. Like, way too much. Let's see before and after. Yeah, look at that. That's just horrible. So, now that we did an extreme, I am going to bring it back just... No, a lot of bit. And a lot of times what I like is I kind of make this like a little arrow. Let's see. Before, after. So look a little bit closer. Ready? Now, are you going to be able to notice this looking at an image 5 feet away? No. But look, do you see it adding just a little extra details into the eyes? That looks like a much better portrait. Look at that. And then I would finish it off down in here with his name or something pretty cool. But to me, that looks like a beautiful, I just like the way it looks. And then if you want to get creative, like we do with Brennan here, this is where you can add these little lighting effects. And it works on his image. This image here, honestly, no, let me go back to this one. Here we go. On this image here, again, just because I can doesn't mean I should. I don't want to add some craziness to it. I mean, you could do it. It's one of those things you could do on, you could decide, do you want that type of a look? Now, chances are, if I were to do something like this, I would come in and desaturate and get rid of all the color on that layer. So I don't want the purple to appear. I would do something like this. There we go. And then you could mask, if you wanted to, mask, brush, erase some of this on his head. There we go, because I don't want that crossing him. There we go. All right, but that, again, you have to decide. Do you want the traditional look and keep it? Do you want to get a little creative? Whatever the client likes, or better yet, whatever you think you want to do with it, go for it. And if the client, or I shouldn't say client, if a family member or somebody says, no, I really want you to make my skin look porcelain, do what they say, but don't put your name on it. If that's not your style, don't put your name on it. All right? So up to this point, let's get our team back again. Any questions up to this point? Holly?
Jim has another question for you.
Yeah, I do. If you were, when would you get rid of that reflector that shows up on the bottom of the eye? Would you do that routinely because it's not traditional and doesn't look right?
Yeah, well, they wanted to try it. And again, when you're, here's the best part with working with workshops, is we get to be creative as heck. We all get to get together and you do those what if scenarios. Well, what if we did this? I don't know, try it. What if we set the fire alarm off so the firemen have to come and we have to do a photo shoot with the firemen? That really did happen. But we did to the Violent Fire Department, we did not do it on purpose, despite what Rick Freeman or Rick Farrow said. But yes, we set the smoke alarm went off. They came. Well, Jim, you know me. My lights are set up. Those firemen look cool as anything. Yeah, get in front of that camera. And they had a great time. And then we put smoke behind them. So it's your turn to get creative. So my suggestion is, because you have a lot of people, a lot of friends, Jim, find other photographers that want to do portrait lighting and just experiment. Well, what would happen if we put this reflection underneath? Yeah, I don't like it. Or, ooh, I really like it. You know, I like how it added that little extra light underneath the chin, underneath the eyes. But we could have maneuvered it, you know, forward or back like this to where it would get the same accomplishment of what we wanted, but not put that catch light. Those two strip boxes, if I could find it for you. In fact, actually, I'm pretty sure I can. My Assassin series that I did, I used those grids in front, like this, in front of the subject. Well, what did that do? It added the most unusual 2 strips of catch lights in the person's eyes. It worked because it was the Assassin series. Would I do it for a beauty portrait? No. But that's where creativity comes in. You start to experiment. All right?
So is that a non-traditional kind of look then, to have that light down under the bottom of the eye, the iris in the eye?
Yep.
So,
Yep, so
is that still sort
look,
of,
but
okay.
you decide if you like it. Now, PPA, or imaging, any camera clubs, they're going to chastise you. No matter if the image looks phenomenal, no matter if Netflix is using it for one of their series, it doesn't matter. They will chastise you. Who cares? If you like it, if the person you're shooting for likes it, stick with it. I guess I'm so over in the martial arts, same thing. We were Americanized, and so many competitors would say, "Oh, well, that's not the proper way of fighting." That really? Well, did that happen during the Revolutionary War? Where everyone stood in one line, and what did the Indians say? Well, that's stupid. And the Indians said, we're going to do this. And they came out with guerrilla warfare. That's barbaric. But it worked. So it's the same thing here. Learn the rules like a pro. Now start to break them as an artist. All right?
Thanks.
Good.
All right, Nick has a question.
Yeah, as a follow-up to Jim's question, if you took those shots in the studio and you had that strip light under the bottom of the eye, and then you get back home and you start to edit it and you realize it, and you want to take it out, are you better off using erase or clone, or is there a better way of doing it?
Let's try it, right? Because it's funny you're saying that, because that was something I did have to deal with. Here's the erase. Now watch this. If we did this, right? Let's say this. Watch what's going to happen. Ready? Edit. And it may or may not work because it's using proximity. Chances are it's not going to work that well. Okay, it did. It wasn't supposed to. All right, well, it worked good. I was hoping it wasn't gonna work that well, but it did. So let me get to the other one. Let's see if, please say that one screws up. And if it does screw up, edit, erase, then we'll go to generative. Let's see. All right, so, well, it worked good. So if it did go, you know what? I'll do this. I'm going to purposely make it look bad. Then we'll do that. So our engineers were excited, saying, well, Vanelli, I don't understand. You want it to be bad? Well, yeah, because I wanted to prove a point.
Luminar works miracles.
Yeah, you know what? I'm going to do this. There we go. Now it's going to look horrible. Finally. All right. That looks horrible, right? So that's when you would use generative. The generative stuff, because not only is it going to review it all and adjust it properly, it'll use proximity plus it'll search for that proper effect. And by the way, don't laugh. When I first started learning portrait, a friend of mine named Todd was at Southern Camera. And this is why I can't stress enough. Find a camera store that you bond with, especially like in New Jersey. Right there is T&F Camera. You can still contact them online. You can still contact them on Zoom and stuff, because Todd sold me a couple lighting kits, and I remember I used Photoshop to remove the catch lights in the eyes. And I said, what the heck? Oh man, I'm taking a picture and all you see is the light in the eyes. And Todd goes, yes, you're supposed to. I go, oh, so I didn't screw up. No, that's how it's supposed to look. Oh, he goes, watch, take it out. It looks like it's a dead crow. It just, there's no life to it. Oh, that makes sense. But how cool is that? And then my other friend, Rob Wicker, he picked Todd's brain on a flash. He picked his brain for hours. And that's he went and bought it on Amazon. And I said, let me get this straight. You just wasted over a couple hours of Todd's time and you went and bought it on Amazon because it was $5 cheaper? Well, yes. Okay, guess what happens? Boom. Flash isn't working the way he thought it would. Where did he go? He went back to Southern Photo and asked Todd, well, could you help me with a diffuser or with a light box? And I said, Todd, don't help him. Nice Todd did. And I just said, Wicker, I can't believe you're not supporting. Fast forward, the store goes out of business years later. He says, it's a shame. I can't believe it. Oh, my Lord. That store's, that's a shame. We helped to support it. Where were you back then? So that's why I push camera stores are not a thing of the past. We need to protect them and we need to help them. Bart is phenomenal because not only is he doing the camera store, but he's teaching photography in the stores. And that's what's helped sustain everything. So if at any time you guys have a chance, in fact, here it is again, that lighting kit. Oh, get back to it. There it is. That lighting kit is right there. You're welcome. So if you're considering lighting, there it is. And plus you also get a copy of Luminar Neo with that. All right. There it is. And get back to it. Good. All right. Other questions up to this point?
There aren't any other questions, no hands raised, but Nick in the chat did say that the Dutch tilt did a good job in this case. We love that Dutch tilt.
No, so when would you not use a Dutch tilt? Landscape. If you have water in an image and you do the Dutch tilt and that water looks like it's falling down like this, you may not want to do the Dutch tilt then. But if it's artistic, in fact, let me do this real quick. So I'm going to break a rule real quick. Is you normally don't search for images on your computer during a live presentation. In fact, I'll even let you see me do it because you don't know what you're going to get. So I am going to do this, and this will help you guys a little bit understand how I do organize my collection. I have a program. I have one directory called photography. Then in that photography, I have adult models. And then her name is, where is she? So, Sydney. Here we go. Sid. And I'm going to do, you don't have to do Sid. All right, I'll use Sid. And there she is. Oh, nothing came in. Oh, there we are. All right, here we are with Sid. And I am going to do complete. All right, here we go. Perfect. There we are. Look at the use of the Dutch tilt there. All right. And by the way, what was behind her? Pegboards from Home Depot. The pegboard was from Home Depot. And let's see if I have it right here. And look, you can see it. We threw a light source behind it. And then I did have the assistant, this is what it looks like. I did have the assistant paint it, because it was brown, we painted it black, and truthfully, it didn't make a difference because, let me get to it, is I end up using the feature in Luminar Neo, the tone tool, to convert the background to blue. Or put any other color. But because she was wearing blue, see if I have her here. Yep, look at her. There she is. Let me get to the one that we did. And you'll see what I mean about how that Dutch tilt helped. And yes, we always, and by the way, when you start taking pictures like this, please do the behind the scene pictures. And the reason for it is so this way you'll remember what you did. Now, we did have what's called a blow-it fan. And they no longer make that anymore. And that's what gave us the hair, blowing. Almost there. Notice how far we got into the shoot before I even got into my groove. Like I didn't like a lot of those I didn't really like. These are the ones I liked. All right, yeah. See, now we got into it, and look, there's what number is that? 5475, 5475. So here's the original. That's the original. That's what we did with it. So do you see how that Dutch tilt gave that off balance, uncertainty? Did you see what it did for us on that? So this was one of those examples where that Dutch tilt would actually be incredible. I loved putting another light source on the bottom because it was similar to clamshell lighting. I liked it. For this image, I could see that as a Maybelline or a something with hair products. That would be a perfect shot for that. And let's see if I do have. I'm pretty sure I do. Which I did show you earlier. Oh, there it is. Yep. And notice we did tether to a laptop, and the reason why we tethered it to a laptop is so then this way I can see in real time what's going on. All right. And I don't know if you can notice, but down here there's another light source. So that light source is what gave me that look into her eyes. Oh, I hated that pose. But do you see? So don't think, like these aren't too bad, right? But again, plain Jane, when I realized that that Dutch tilt, there we go. Then if I had to reshoot this again, I would actually do I would actually do the Dutch tilt. I would do a regular shot, and then tilt it, boom, take the shot. So this way, I could avoid that one extra step, and that's a little too aggressive. Not that I need to fix it right now, but you know, as photographers feel right about there. There we go. All right, but it just gives you that little extra. All right. So, did I answer the rest of the questions? Any other questions?
Yeah. Nope, that's it for right now.
Holly, I'm so glad I don't have the chat live on the screen. You guys kill me. All right, good. So, guys, do you like these the new series, Behind the Shot? Because if you do like these, please let Skylum and the rest of the team know, because then they'll let me do more of these to where it's that time where if you can't make it to a workshop, at least you're still getting some of the benefits from being at that workshop. So I'll open the floor for any discussion. Go ahead. Nick?
Yeah, I think it's a great idea because personally, I never make it to workshops. I probably, as you know, I'm not a portrait shooter or anything like that, so I definitely wouldn't make it to one of those types of workshops. So it's a great means for me to learn and get involved in this. So I enjoy it. I think it's well worth it.
Right. And the goal of it also is, like we just talked about those elements of exposure. Well, it pertains to nature photography also. You know, it's the same concept. So it's things like that you're not just learning about portrait photography, you're learning about photography in general. You're learning that sometimes the shoot doesn't go the way you want it to. You're out there, Nick is photographing all those cover bridges. They may not go the way he wants it. So what do you do instead? Well, instead of just giving up, you reinvent the way you're going to do that shoot the next time you go out. All right? Well, guys, thank you so much. And I do want to thank T&F Camera for hosting the event. And, of course, Skylum for sending me on that incredible tour. I just loved going to all those different cities to where we're able to share the knowledge of photography and the editing with Luminar Neo. All right? So, please, from this point on, we are going to continue with the behind the scenes or behind the shot series. And so for the next places I go to, if you have any questions whatsoever, please feel free to ask those questions so on the next adventure we go into, I can answer them for you. All right? Well, guys, thank you. And on behalf of myself, Skylum, and for T&F Camera, thank you so much for joining us. For everyone else, please just stick around for a few minutes. If you're watching this on YouTube or the rebroadcast, thanks for joining us, and we'll see you the next time on Behind the Shot.